You're listening to The Stephen Torriello Show, building a platform of liberty for people in search of truth with a dash of hope and a life worth living. The Stephen Torriello Show. And now, here's Stephen.
A Democrat, Blumenthal, you know, the guy, I think he faked his service in the Vietnam or something. So typical, right? It's like a Tim Walz senior. He actually came out and said the report that's going to be released is shocking and appalling. So I don't know what that means, but when you have a Democrat that says the report's going to be shocking and appalling to Americans, it's probably not very good. That whole situation wasn't good. Whether you believe the conspiracy theory or not, the second shooter, the bike path, the water tower, all of that stuff. I think people need to realize that somebody tried to shoot Donald Trump because of the rhetoric that the Democrats and their media have been saturating their viewers with. This whole Donald Trump is a threat to democracy, Donald Trump is a threat to this, Donald Trump's going to destroy America, Donald Trump's going to... all of this stuff. I mean, this is... The Trump assassination is essentially the culmination of the inevitable outcome. What we all said was going to happen. This is the reason why we told Democrats that they should probably stop calling this guy Hitler, because crazy people out there just may believe them. And so that's what happens. Exactly what happened. And we knew it was going to happen because we all said it to one another. We all said, Donald Trump, someone's going to try and kill this guy, because Democrats are fear-mongering their viewers over and over and over again. Anyways, we have a lot to get into. I have, so much stuff to get into. Taylor Swift endorsement. What a piece of crap she is, man. But I don't think it's going to make that big of a difference. The left-wing media wants it to seem like it's going to make a big difference. But I think it's important for people to remember that the election's going to come down to 3 or 4 states with thousands of votes. It's unfortunate that's how close it's going to be. It's amazing to me. It's actually mind-blowing how this election can be even close after people's lived experience of the last 3.5 years. They're going to vote for it again? It doesn't make sense, man. But again, we're living through an information war where your thought processes, your ideas, your narrative is all determined based off of what media outlets you watch. Because America, believe it or not, Americans like to be told what to think. And this is the problem with that. When you have a media apparatus that combines forces with the administrative state, you get state-run media. And in fact, the perfect example of state-run media was that debate. That was a freaking drive-by. That was a setup. All right, that is the culmination of state-run media. That is the example of state-run media. If Moscow, Russia, if the Soviet Union were to conduct debates back in the 1940s or 1950s, it would have looked like the debate Donald Trump just went into. That's how bad our media has become. It has become an arm of the administrative state, making it state-run media. It's filled not with journalists, but political activists. They're part of the oligarchy. The Washington oligarchy, the swamp, the deep state, whatever you want to call it. I call it an oligarchy because, well, that's what it is. It's a handful of faceless, nameless bureaucrats that are very powerful, that are connected with the political atmosphere. They're connected with Hollywood, the judicial system. They are the powerful ruling elite, and they're the ones that are running this country. And because if you haven't noticed, we haven't seen Joe Biden in, weeks? The guy just disappeared off the face of the earth after dropping out of the election and coronating Kamala Harris. He just disappeared. So who the hell's running this country? The oligarchy. So shame on Taylor Swift for endorsing Kamala Harris. I don't think it's going to make that big of a difference. They want people to think it is. And really, people need to think about the timing of it. Why did she come out right on debate night? I think it would have been more effective for her to come out maybe a week or two before the election. I think we're entering a different realm, man, than we were in 2020. I think in 2020, a lot of people still believed the media. And then for the last 3.5 years, all the lies and gaslighting they've been getting from CNN, MSNBC, Joe and Mika, Rachel Maddow, Kristen Welker, all of the bootlickers for the oligarchy, they've been lying to them. And I think majority of Americans can see that their media is failing. There was a poll that came out not that long ago that said majority of Americans distrust the media more than Congress. That's never happened. I've never seen a poll say that before. And so I think the American people are starting to see right through the BS. Anyways, we got a lot of stuff to get into. We're going to get into that here in a little bit. We're going to get into all this stuff. So there has been an update. Donald Trump came out last night saying he will not participate in a second debate, and I have to agree. Now, when on the last show I think I said, and if I didn't, I meant to, that Donald Trump should do a second debate. But I don't think he should now. And we're going to get into why I say that. So this is an article from the Epic Times. Trump says he will not participate in a second debate with Harris. Let's see here. It says former President Donald Trump on Thursday said he will not partake in a third presidential debate, responding to calls from Vice President Kamala Harris's team. Quote, there will be no third debate, he wrote in all caps on Truth Social after taking part in a debate against President Joe Biden in June and a debate against Harris earlier this week. I would call that more of a show trial. That was a show debate. That was all set up. It was all rigged. The moderators probably gave Harris's campaign team the questions. A lot of people are suspecting that Kamala Harris had an earpiece, her earrings. I don't know about all that. I can't confirm it anyways, and I don't want to get my content stripped off of the platform because that's the type of country we live in now. Censorship, which is, one of the things that happens in communist countries, and it's happening all over the world, but I digress. That was a setup. That wasn't a debate. That was something the Soviet Union would have conducted in. That was something the Soviet Union would have participated in. If, like I said, if you would have had a debate back in the Soviet Union in the 1930s and 40s, it would look like that debate we watched the other night, where the moderators were completely one-sided, fact-checking Donald Trump, not Kamala Harris. It was so obvious to everybody. And in fact, Kamala Harris came out of that debate weaker. And hence is why I say Donald Trump actually won that debate. And we're going to go through that. So after his Harris camp suggested another debate, Trump used a metaphor likening the vice president to a boxer or a UFC fighter who lost a match. Quote, when a prize fighter loses a fight, the first words out of his mouth are, I want a rematch, the former president wrote, partly in all caps, before suggesting that he won the debate, citing undisclosed polls. In his social media post on Thursday, Trump signaled that he believes he made his point about illegal immigration, the economy, and other policies that both Harris and Biden have supported during his first two debates. Quote, millions of criminals and mentally deranged people are pouring into the U.S., totally unchecked and unvetted. He said, adding that inflation is bankrupting our middle class. Yeah, I agree. I know a lot of people are upset with Donald Trump for not being more prepared. It's just who he is, man. The guy's not a politician. I know he's done a lot of debates, but Trump is who he is. That's what makes him so authentic. Donald Trump didn't go out there with any memorized lines. He didn't go out there after just being stowed up in a hotel room for 5 days with a fake stage, with fake stage lighting, and an actor playing the role of Donald Trump, even dressed up like Donald Trump in a suit and a long tie. That is no joke. I think it's important for people to know that for 5 days, almost a week before that debate, Kamala Harris and her campaign team, her debate team, was held up in a hotel room with a fake stage, with fake lighting and everything, and a method actor, right? Method actor, to dress up as Donald Trump and act like him. From the reports that I've read, they had a psychological profiler there to pinpoint trigger words for Donald Trump, trigger topics. That's why they pretty much evaded giving any questions about Kamala's policies, rather got Donald Trump worked up and got him furious. You know, this is how we got conversations like crowd size. The Kamala campaign was trying to soak up as much time as possible by triggering Donald Trump with topics like crowd size. This was all choreographed, it was all set up, and I wouldn't be a bit surprised if the moderators gave the questions to Kamala beforehand. That is what we're dealing with. So I do not blame him not going into that again, because it's all going to be another rig job again. I think people understand now why Kamala did not want to take the Fox debate, is because she can't do this without help. She can't do this without a choreographed, staged debate where the moderators are one-sided, completely biased, and in the tank for Kamala Harris, bailing her out as much as possible, fact-checking Donald Trump in live time, by the way, with wrong facts. That's never happened before. This is why you don't fact-check during presidential debates, is because you just gave the wrong facts, you morons. And so they pretty much contributed to the misinformation that was given during that debate by Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris lied 5, 6, 7 times. Project 2025 was a lie. She pulled out the bloodbath statement. That was a lie. She talked about fine people on both sides hoax. That was a lie. Provable. All these things have been fact-checked and debunked months ago. In some cases, years ago. Snopes just came out with a fact check about the fine people on both sides hoax. So they're lying about things they know have been proven false. But what they're hoping for is people aren't paying attention. However, I think the American people are paying attention. And like I said, I don't blame Donald Trump for not taking any more debates, because it's going to be just another rig job like the last one was. You can't go into a debate 3 against 1. You just can't. It's not smart to do. It's not advisable. Nobody would want to do that. Donald Trump fared pretty well for being 3 against 1. I agree. But you're not going to be able to go in there when you have psychological profilers finding trigger topics for you. Anybody would have done what Donald Trump did. I mean, me personally, I think he handled it very well considering the circumstances. But the left-wing media, the Pravda media, of course, came out saying Kamala Harris won that election, and I just don't think that's true. I really don't. And this is why. So this is an article from the New York Times. This came out, I think, yesterday. It says, pundits said Harris won the debate, but undecided voters weren't so sure. That's right. So undecided voters, and I got another article that's even more shocking. Undecided voters did not buy the bullshit. They weren't buying what Kamala Harris was selling, and this is the reason why I kind of wanted to wait a couple days, at least 48 hours after the debate, so I can kind of get a feel for the atmosphere, get a feel for the environment, what the headlines were saying. I needed some polls. I wanted to see what undecided voters were saying. By the way, if you're an undecided voter at this point, I don't know how that's even possible. Like, I am pretty confident that everybody knows who they're going to be voting for, and I don't think there's anything either side could do to persuade anybody otherwise. That's just my personal opinion. Yeah, maybe there's a few thousand people out there, maybe, but I think for the most part, I don't think there's anything Donald Trump can come out and say to get somebody's vote. I certainly don't think there's anything Kamala can lie about to get their vote. The Kamala Harris campaign is starting to fall apart. It is bursting at the seams, and this is what happens when you create a campaign on lies and deception. It is just like anybody else when you lie. You have to lie to cover up a lie to cover up a lie, and eventually the truth shall set you free. And that's what's happening with the Kamala campaign. They're not authentic. They are not genuine. They are not giving people their ideas and their policies that are their own. They're trying to bait both sides. They're trying to stay progressive while lying and trying to trick the moderates. Because the way they see it is they know that their base understands what they're doing by trying to trick the moderates. So the progressives are sitting back saying, oh, she's just saying that so that she can bring some moderates and win this election. So they know. They're both on the same page. And this is why it is so hard for Democrats in general these days is because they've adopted all these different factions, and so they have to lie to this side, lie to this side, lie to this side. You just don't see Donald Trump doing that, man. Some people say he flip-flopped on abortion rights. Folks, Donald Trump is in the same camp as a lot of people. It doesn't matter because it is a state issue now. And this is one of the reasons why Democrats hate him, is because they took that issue from them and they used to use that to divide the people in order to get votes. And so now, because Donald Trump got conservative justices in there to overturn Roe v. Wade, now the issue is back with the states. And so now women or the pro-choice people don't have to vote based on abortion. All right, you don't have to vote for, stupid policies just because you're worried about not being able to have abortions. It's not an issue anymore. Now, if these people want to fight abortion and pro-choice, pro-life, they have to do it in the states. And in fact, that's happening all over the country. It's on a lot of ballots this election. And so I think that was an extremely strategic and good thing that Donald Trump did and those brave justices. This was that case where Brett Kavanaugh, that was the reason why he almost got assassinated. That's why you had Chuck Schumer at the steps of the Capitol. You will reap the whirlwind. All that pretty threatening rhetoric, right? I mean, pretty inciting rhetoric anyways. But now people can vote on actual issues that impact the entire country. They don't have to sit and vote on one issue like abortion, which I just think it's so dumb to sit there and vote for somebody based on abortion. And we did an episode maybe a month ago where there's more abortions now taking place despite the overturning of Roe v. Wade than there was in the past decade. They don't have to do that anymore. Now, if they want to mess with abortion, they could do it in their states. So I think that's good. Kamala Harris is going to have problems because she's not genuine, and people are starting to see right through it. The undecided voters are not sold on Kamala because interview after interview you see of these street polls, man on the street stuff, Kamala voters and people that want to like Kamala, in fact, I think that was a quote by one of the interviewers or interviewees, was, I want to like Kamala Harris. I just don't know who she is. I don't know what her policies are. And that is a pretty mainline, narrative I'm seeing all across the board. It's because she is fake. And until she comes out and she is honest with the American people about what she really is and what she actually supports and her policy positions, she's going to lose this election. Because people are not going to vote for somebody that they don't know who they are. They don't know what they support. They don't know their policies. And when you go on Kamala Harris's website, they literally copied and pasted sections of Joe Biden's campaign policies, his policy positions from his 2024 campaign website. Literally copied and pasted. They actually went through the metadata. These nerds on X got the file, went to the website, and they started pulling up the metadata and found that it was whole chunks of Kamala Harris's policy positions on her website were copied and pasted from Joe Biden's. And people, Kamala wants to sell the people on, I am the person of change. But she copied and pasted Biden's campaign, his policy positions. I mean, literally, to a T, copied and pasted. That's not change. That's more of the same. A Kamala Harris administration is a Biden-Harris administration 2.0. That is what it is, and people are starting to see it. She's not convincing the undecided voters. She's not convincing the moderates. In fact, when it comes to the moderates, before we move on, I wanted to prove to you that this was copy and pasted. So sometime late on Sunday night or early Monday morning, the website's metadata appears to have been changed with the language asking for Biden to be reelected having been removed. All of this creates the impression that at least some of Harris' campaign's policy language was copied and pasted from Biden's documents. That would be an embarrassing miscue from the Harris campaign, which partly came into being because of a perception that a refresh was needed to garner enthusiasm in the Democratic Party. It doesn't help that the section of her website about her Israel-Palestine policy seems very similar to what Biden's campaign was saying. Harris's policy platform should be giving the public a view of the detailed plans her administration hopes to implement. If she and Tim Walz win in November, the last thing her campaign needs is an embarrassing misstep. And while this one is relatively small, she'll need to reassure voters on the fence that her campaign isn't a retread of Biden's with a new face. But that's exactly what they're thinking. That is exactly what's going through these voters' minds, these so-called undecided voters. I mean, you see it headline after headline. The undecided voters are not buying the bullshit. And this poll that came out yesterday absolutely made Democrats' heads explode, man. Oh, man. It was so freaking bad. I want to get into this. This is from the economictimes.com. This came out yesterday. It says polls say Trump is the more moderate candidate than Harris in the U.S. presidential elections. Democrats voice frustrations. Yeah. Because he is. Listen, I have to say, Donald Trump is not as conservative as Ron DeSantis. And he's actually getting a lot of flack for that he's not conservative enough when it comes to abortion. He says the 6-week bill in Florida is too short. And I have to agree. I'm one of the people in the middle, man. That's the liberal side of me says that you got to give at least 10 weeks, man. You can't 6 weeks, that's not long enough. So, I'm in the middle in that issue, and so are a lot of people. And when you get into the polls and the crosstabs of this issue, the abortion issue, majority of Americans are pretty in the middle when it comes to abortion. They don't want late-term abortions, 9 months, 8 months, but they don't think 6 weeks is long enough. Usually, the majority of people find themselves in the 12 to 15-week window. The majority of America. That's right where Donald Trump is. That is pretty liberal when it comes to abortion, as far as the conservatives are concerned. So, like I said, Donald Trump is a moderate. He has RFK Jr. as a surrogate. He's bringing him into his cabinet. Tulsi Gabbard, the former vice chair of the DNC, is going to be in a Trump cabinet. Elon Musk donating to Donald Trump's PAC so that he can get elected. To sit there and say that Donald Trump is some radical conservative is just not true. So getting into this article, it says Democrats are expressing their frustration following a poll by the New York Times and Siena College. The survey revealed that more voters view former President Trump as a moderate compared to Vice President Harris. For years, Democrats have labeled Trump as an extremist, but the poll indicated that voters are more likely to see Harris as too liberal rather than Trump as too conservative. This left many Democrats in Congress stunned and confused, as per reports of MSN. Some Democrats pointed to right-wing media portraying Harris as extremely liberal, contributing to this perception. It's not a perception. Kamala Harris is an extreme progressive liberal. I don't even like calling them liberal because liberal means like freedom of speech, okay, freedom to express different ideas and opinions. That's not the Democrat Party. These are not liberals, right? These are radical progressives. They're not liberals. I'm so sick of people, the Democrat leftists, calling themselves liberals. They are leftist, progressive Marxists. They are not liberals. I'm a liberal. I'm a liberal that left the freaking Democrat Party and voted for Donald Trump. RFK Jr. is a liberal. Tulsi Gabbard is a liberal. We don't like war. Our views haven't changed. Mine haven't. Anti-war, anti-establishment, middle of the road for abortion, still pro-choice. I think women should have a choice on what they do, but there's a limit. That is liberal. Democrats are not liberal. So this is how they own the language. You know this. Everybody knows that Democrats are masters at owning the language. They do this with everything. And one of the first things that they did was kind of compartmentalize their party as being the liberals. They are not liberals, right? It's so far from liberal, it's not even funny. They are the party of censorship. That you can't be liberal and pro-censorship at the same time. It doesn't exist. But they own the language and they weaponize it. They do the same thing with assault rifles. So what they'll say is they won't call it assault rifles. They'll say what? Assault weapons. So they want what? An assault weapons ban. Well, what is an assault weapon? This is how they do it. So if they were to ever get control of Congress and were to pass an assault weapons ban, that's pretty much all guns. That is anything they deem to be an assault weapon. You can have a freaking broomstick to be an assault weapon. So that the language is so vague. They weaponize the language like this, and they've been doing it for a long, long time. But I think people are catching on. Obviously, undecided voters find Kamala Harris to be more progressive than Donald Trump more conservative. So she hasn't sold people on anything because it's not true. Her campaign is built on lies and deception. That's why people ain't buying it. So the effectiveness of the GOP attacks and challenges for Democrats. I'm not even going to read this because I'm sure it's just a bunch of lies. They're trying to say that, oh, it's Republicans that are creating this perception that Kamala Harris is a radical progressive. Folks, I have played video after video. I have made posts on social media, at least 25 posts of Kamala Harris in her own words describing equity, which is Marxism. Equity is another name for Marxism. That's all it is. And the words and phrases that she's been, the rhetoric she uses when she talks about what type of economic policy she wants, it's Marxism. Almost fits it to a T. It is the definition of Marxism. One of the videos that I played, Kamala Harris was talking about some people may need more. That equitable distribution, redistributing wealth. I mean, it was Marxism through and through, and it makes sense considering her father was a Marxist professor. Yes, that was something else Donald Trump said that people caught on to. So I actually want to get into this because this is important. So here are the numbers from this article. It says, the poll results show that GOP attacks on Harris have been successful in painting her as more liberal, while efforts by Democrats to cast Trump as an extremist have not resonated as effectively. Maybe because he's not an extremist. You ever think of that? Maybe you don't have to win elections by trying to manipulate the people and tricking them into voting for you. Maybe the people are smart enough to notice things on their own. They notice and they see Kamala Harris, when she talks, when she did her speeches, all of her voting records. She had the most liberal voting record on the govtrack.org website. She's been the most radical progressive senator in a long time. Her entire career has been a radical progressive. And you think 3 months before an election you're going to be able to change all that and dupe the people? No way, man. Some of them, not all of them. The survey data showed that 49% of the voters think Trump is not too far either way, while only 32% say he is too conservative. On the other hand, 47% of likely voters view Harris as too liberal or progressive. So that is 47% to Donald Trump's 32%. So 47% of voters think Kamala Harris is too liberal or progressive versus Donald Trump's 32% think he's too conservative. They're not buying it, man. And the reason why, again, is because Kamala Harris is not being authentic. She's not coming out and giving people her policy positions. She's just trying to lie their way through this election. It's bizarre, dude. I've never seen anything like this, where a campaign thinks they can get through an election and sneak by the people on lies and deception. I've never seen it. It is a campaign that is fake. The famous word used for like giving the appearance as if it's real, but everything's so fake. Everything. Not just her campaign, but the show trials that are this persecution against Donald Trump. These trials are fake. They are show trials. They were used for one reason and one reason only, and that was to what? Influence the election. So Kamala Harris can get on that debate stage and say, oh, look who talk about being prosecuted, Donald Trump. Talk about being prosecuted. I am the prosecutor. You are a 34-time felon. That's why they used these damn show trials, was to interfere in the election. We've been saying this for over a year. Ever since the first case started against Donald Trump, I said they are going to weaponize the justice system in order to interfere in the people's elections. And every single person that's been involved in this entire conspiracy should be charged and indicted on conspiring to violate people's civil rights, their voting rights. I've said this from day one. That needs to be one of the first things that Donald Trump does when he gets into office. Every single one of these judges, these lawyers, these legal groups. This should never happen again in this country, where you have an oligarchy, right, filled with both Republicans and Democrats, use the justice system as a political weapon to kneecap their opponents in order to interfere in a federal election. It should never happen again. And the only way it stops is if Donald Trump investigates them. The only way it stops is if they are dealt the same cards that they gave to Donald Trump. These people only understand power. They're not going to stop until they get a dose of their own medicine. It's unfortunate. This is how the tit for tat stuff works in third world banana republics. But how else are you going to stop these people? I mean, the reason why they're doing it in the first place is because they weren't held accountable for the Russia collusion hoax. Adam Schiff. This guy's getting ready to be a senator. So he gets a promotion for lying to the American people, wasting millions of taxpayer dollars on a hoax, something he knew was a hoax. Then you have all these trials set forth against Donald Trump. They're all show trials. The whole damn thing is fake. Everything we've been seeing from this administration is fake. The job numbers are fake. The cases against Trump are fake. Kamala Harris's campaign is fake. It's like we're living in bizarro world, man. Like, this is the type of stuff they would do in the Soviet Union. But to see it here in America is bizarre. And the only thing I can use to explain it is the same tools and weapons we gave our administrative state to topple foreign governments and foreign adversaries. They're starting to use those same tools and tactics against us here domestically. That's the simplest way that I can reduce it to, is the tools and tactics we gave our government to fight enemies abroad and topple governments and topple tyrants and dictatorships. They're now starting to use those tools and strategies here in the States against Donald Trump. The Transition Integrity Project was one of those things. All these different groups that are funded by us, by the way, through different NGOs and different donations from the rich ruling elite, from the oligarchy. They're using all that money. These groups are built for one reason, and that is to prevent Donald Trump from winning the election, which, if you do that, if you really think about it, that is them trying to subvert democracy. That is what they're doing, which makes them not the defenders of democracy, but the destroyers of democracy. And like I said, they're masters at weaponizing the language. In the very beginning, they called themselves the great defenders of democracy. What's been the talking point the last 2.5 years? What does every Biden voter, Kamala voter say is the worst thing about Donald Trump? Why don't they like Donald Trump? Because he's a threat to democracy. This was a talking point that was saturated into the leftist progressives since day one. This is what they do. They accuse their opponents of what they themselves are guilty of, either what they've done or what they plan to do or what they're currently doing. That is how they do this. And that's what we've been watching. And it's not working. The whole fake, the whole Potemkin village, the whole Potemkin campaign, the show trials against Donald Trump, it's all fake. And people ain't buying it. Thank God they're not buying it. Based off of this New York Times poll, which this is a New York Times poll, I've never seen a poll like this from the New York Times, ever. And so Democrats are flipping out right now, man. They're not as good as they seem. This is why they came out of that debate with the Taylor Swift endorsement, which I think is absolutely disgusting, by the way. It really makes you question, like, is Taylor Swift actually a good person? People need to remember that Taylor Swift, since 2006, 2007, when she first started coming out with her music, they have spent millions of dollars on PR firms, entire firms, to make people think that Taylor Swift is just like you, to make people believe that Taylor Swift is just another average woman, that Taylor Swift is just like you, is just like her fans. I am beginning to question whether Taylor Swift is actually a good person or not. I really don't think she is. I think Taylor Swift sold her soul to the Democrat oligarchy. To tell her fans, with a link in her post, by the way, to the voter registration portal, whatever it is, that to encourage them to vote for 4 more years of this, saying that she's voting for Kamala Harris because she sees Kamala as a true leader? Is Taylor Swift aware that Kamala Harris's borders are as the person that was responsible for the core issues with our immigration system and our southern border, allowed over 300,000 immigrant children to disappear, probably sold into some type of sex slavery or child trafficking of some sort? Is Taylor Swift aware that Kamala Harris is responsible for that? I don't think Taylor Swift knows this stuff. And this is the problem when you have somebody like Taylor Swift, a billionaire, musician, celebrity, telling people who to vote for. This is why I think Taylor Swift is a piece of crap, man. Because what she could have done was, just like all the other celebrities and music stars, she could have not said anything. I mean, why does she feel compelled to tell her fans that they should register to vote and why she's voting for Kamala Harris? Why does she do that? It's because she is bought and paid for by the Democrat oligarchy. That's why. I find it very hard to believe that Taylor Swift has any connection with the struggles that the Biden-Harris administration has caused this country and its people. That you're talking about a woman that has a private jet, I think 2 private jets. She flies around wherever she wants, pumping more greenhouse gases into the atmosphere than I do with my car in a lifetime. She is so disconnected from the real American people, it's not even funny. So what would possess her to come out and tell her fans on a post that got millions of views? I think it led to a rise in the polling. The polling link had like 340,000 actions on it. So 340,000 people actually clicked on that link. Whatever that means, did they register? We don't know. But this, to me, is so awful for her to do this. Somebody that is completely disconnected from the negative impacts of a Biden-Harris administration, to tell her fans to vote for it again, and her excuse is that she thinks Kamala Harris is a good leader, a person that's responsible for losing 320,000 immigrant children at the southern border. That's Taylor Swift's leader? No, man. It's so bizarre, and this is why I say, why come out and endorse anything? Why do it? It's because she's a piece of crap, and she don't actually care about her fans. Taylor Swift is not who people think she is. She is a character. Again, she is a fake character that was created by a multi-million-dollar PR firm to make people believe that Taylor Swift is just like you. And it makes perfect sense when you think about it, because everything about the last 3.5 years has been fake. The Biden-Harris administration is fake. The job numbers is fake. The lies we get from the media is fake. The Kamala Harris campaign is fake. And Taylor Swift is fake. And I think the people are just craving authenticity, man. People just want somebody that's going to tell them the damn truth, no matter how hard it is. And that's Donald Trump. I was thinking about this the other day. Could you imagine if the Democrat leftist progressives were around back during World War II? And I've said this before. Unconventional leaders come in unconventional times. But the left, especially today's leftist Democrats, prioritize imperfections in their leaders rather than their effectiveness. It's like they're almost looking for like a bridesmaid at a friggin' wedding, man. I think they lost the meaning of what a leader actually is. A leader is somebody that can come in and push back against this establishment, push back against the system, despite getting shot, or despite, being threatened with prison time for the rest of his life, despite being persecuted by the justice system. That is a leader. A leader that encourages people to fight in the face of fear. That's a leader. Your Winston Churchills, your Nelson Mandelas, your Margaret Thatchers. Those are real leaders. But they never would have been leaders if today's leftist Democrats were controlling the culture. I can almost go as far to say as we almost might be speaking German if leftist Democrats were in charge back in the 1930s and 40s. They were around, but their ideas were so ignorant. Their ideas were so radical. They would get slapped down. And this is when Democrats actually learned that they have to hide their language. They actually have to trick and manipulate people. This is why Democrats cosplay as Republicans every time election year rolls around. This is why Kamala Harris, somebody that's never supported a border wall, has openly stated on video and audio 1,000 times how much she hated Donald Trump's border wall. And then 3 months before an election, she comes out and she supports building a border wall. She steals Donald Trump's policy on no tax on tips. It's because she is fake. And in order for Democrats, the progressive Democrats, in order for them to get elected, they have to lie and trick their voters into voting for them. And the moment they get elected, and this is something Donald Trump said in the debate, the moment they get elected, they go back to doing what they were doing before. And this is why Donald Trump told Kamala Harris, you're not going to do any of this, because if you actually were going to do the things that you say you're going to do, you would do them right now. You would get the White House together, you would get Congress together, and instead of being the tie-breaking vote for the Inflation Reduction Act, that again was a fake bill designed to manipulate the people into tricking them into thinking that it was actually going to reduce inflation when in all reality it was a Green New Deal bill. It was a bunch of environmentalist spending. Billions, trillions, over $1 trillion into the environmental spending Green New Deal crap. Again, another deception, another lie by this administration. But he said if you were actually going to do the things you say you're going to do, you would do them right now. You're in charge right now. The Kamala Harris campaign is trying to get people to believe that she's not in the office right now. And this is the type of stuff people are starting to notice. They're like, listen, everything this woman's saying, it just comes off as fake. Is because it is. These people cannot lie like they used to be able to. They just can't because of alternative media outlets. This is why they are the party of censorship. They don't like these alternate ideas. They don't like dissent. They don't like dissenting opinions. This is why Democrats have become the party of censorship. They like the government censoring opposition. They like it. They support it. All throughout COVID, we experienced this. If COVID was not a reminder as to why this administration should never be anywhere near the White House, I don't know what else is. What these people did during COVID, what they did during COVID should cost them the election alone. Joe Biden coming out saying he wasn't going to issue mandates on vaccines, and then within weeks of getting power, issuing mandates for vaccines on people with threat of their jobs, their livelihood. Forcing people to die alone, away from their family members. What the Biden-Harris administration did during COVID is egregious, and it should be the exact reason that these people pay the political price. They lose this election. If no reason at all, and that's not even getting into Afghanistan, that's not even getting into the deceptive Inflation Reduction Act. That's not even getting into Kamala Harris lying to the American people for 3.5 years about Joe Biden's cognitive ability. Her and the media, Joe and Mika, every single morning coming out talking about how this is the best Joe Biden we've ever seen. You idiot. You're freaking lying to the American people, man, and they're not buying it. Based off the polls I'm seeing, they're not buying it. And it's a good thing. Because you should not have an administration that gets power because they were able to lie and deceive the American people better. That's not freaking democracy. That is an oligarchy. That is like that's like totalitarianism. It's like some third world stuff, man. That is like straight up Venezuelan banana republic stuff. That's not America. And that's another thing Donald Trump hit on. So for all this crap talking about Donald Trump, the guy came out with some good one-liners. What Kamala Harris wants to do to this country is so far off base from what the American people want for this country. People don't want this crap anymore. We're going to sit there and try and convince them that we can power the country with windmills and solar panels. So you go to war with the fossil fuel industry, causing gas prices to raise to $5, $6 a gallon in the midst of the record inflation that they caused because of their unlimited government printing of money. Where did all that money go, by the way? The trillions of dollars that the American people, I don't think, agreed to spend. Did they ask us if we wanted to spend $6 trillion for the Inflation Reduction Act that was actually the Green New Deal? This is why the American people have no control over how their tax money's spent. They don't even know where their money's going. We got hundreds of millions of dollars going to Ukraine still, and the American people don't even know. It's not good what we're going into, and the American people ain't buying it. So to go back to the Taylor Swift topic, because I think that's what we were originally talking about, what happened to Taylor Swift the last time she endorsed Joe Biden? Where did she go? Did she have to suffer any of this? Taylor Swift comes out, she endorses Joe Biden, and then she just disappears, leaving the rest of the America to defend for itself. Pretty much saying, oh, I'm going to tell people who to vote for, and then they're on their own. Good luck. While America just descends into chaos, Taylor Swift is flying around on her private jets, going from one venue to the other, making millions of dollars. Now, to be clear, she didn't tell people to vote for Kamala, but I think it's pretty obvious what she was hinting towards, was it not? I mean, when you have when you have Taylor Swift come out and say, I'm voting for Kamala Harris, and this is why, and here's a link to register to vote. What? So Taylor Swift claims to be this independent woman. But is she really? Or is she bought and paid for by the Democrat oligarchy? Because you go up against the Democrat oligarchy and you'll be like Elon Musk, constantly getting attacked and sued. You go up against the Democrats and you end up like Donald Trump. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, as always, thank you so much for tuning in. I'll be back on here in a little bit. I want you guys to have a good day. Have a great weekend. TGIF. God bless you. God bless America. And